Hi, welcome to my shop, and here's a radio I'm going to be working on next. This is a General Electric KL-70, great radio. Now, I've had this in my shop, would you believe, exactly 5 years ago today. I finished this radio in my shop. It was actually in another house. I didn't even live in this house, a different shop. But when I finished this, it still required more attention. I'd sort of done the first pass through, I've changed all the capacitors, all that kind of stuff's been done. And then I was doing the tune-up work on it, and I got a fairly good response, but not 100%. I even actually watched my 5-year-old video on this. I ended up not being able to get the AM side of this radio to work. So here's the thing about this particular style of radio, or this particular chassis, if you like. You can find this radio made by 4 different manufacturers under 2 or 4 different numbering systems. So this is a very, very common chassis. Very popular, very common, and very good. This is a great receiver, so it's well worth getting this guy working 100%. So what I'm hoping to do with it today anyway is check it out, plug it in, get it working, go over the different bands, see how well it's working, just take stock of the radio, and then get busy on trying to bring this radio's performance right up to where it really should be. It should be a really good performer. Look, it has this directional antenna here, the beamoscope. So let's see how this goes. Just checking a few things here quickly. Okay. Okay, let's give it a go. Why not? So this plug, this is the original plug, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure. Part of the plastic shell is broken off. Well, that means it's pretty easy to grab this like that. Have your thumb actually contact a little bit of copper right there. So pretty good to take a look at these things. Good to check everything out. This is a very old cord. I wonder if this is the original cord. That's not my handiwork up there. Okay. So this is the band switch here. The band is indicated in a little spot there. Come on in a little closer. So for instance, this is the 25 meter band, 31 meter band, B. So B looks like, well, they can't give it a meter band because it has quite a few bands in it. 120 aircraft band. Yeah, there's no airplanes here. So this is 3.5 megahertz, 4 megahertz, up to 7 megahertz. So that's what the B band is. The A band is the AM radio band, the regular broadcast band, 550 kilohertz to 1500 kilohertz. Then we have another setting here, PB, which would be for separate input into the back of the radio. 19 meter band, 15 megahertz. So the thing that makes this radio really great is the band spread on a couple of these bands, like the 31 meter band. So 9 megahertz, 9.5 megahertz to 9.7. This is 200 kilohertz spread out like that. You know, 200 kilohertz in a lot of these radios is a space about that big on the dial. So that means when tuning on this band, I can tune fast like this. It's going to be really easy. Whoops, what happened there? Okay. And we're finding the problems left and right. So I think the string dismounted in the back. Oh, string. Yikes. The last band says 6 to 13. 6 to 13. It's definitely what it says in there. He's gone stone silent. 6 to 13. Well, I mean 6 megahertz to 13 megahertz. 6 megahertz is here. 13 would be over here somewhere. Is it a band? Well, you got me. That's just, there's a real mystery. So, okay, so A, B, 31, 25, 19, 6. Oh, you know, it's not 6, it's 16 to 13. Oh, for crying out loud. 16 to 13. 16 megahertz to 16 meters to 13 meters. Yeah, there's a 13 meter band. Okay, so that's what's going on there. Great, got all that sorted out. Another cool thing about this radio, well, it has a magic eye in the middle, which is great, but it also has these push buttons. And I'm pretty sure I did not try tuning these push buttons. So this one, it says Tele, FM, and Phono. So that's television, FM radio, or phono. So that's for the extra input back here. And where would that be? So where are you going to plug something in here? Okay, so I remember now. I'm not so sure you can see this, but you've got to plug it in way up in the ear, way up at the very front, way up there. That's where you plug in extra stuff. So it's, I wonder. Boy, you would think they would have just done something anyway to get that input down here. But what they've done is they've located it right up on the switch panel here. Wow, that's really awkward. Okay, this radio's plugged in, but the power's not turned on yet. So let's do that now. Make sure I got. This is going to be tone, I'm pretty sure. Off. Just says off there. Tone, there we are. Tone, volume, range, or I'd call it band. Radio's off. Let's apply power here. I'm going to get you where you can see the dim lights. I've got only one bulb in right now. Okay, that's the least restriction there. Give us the most juice on the radio here. Here we go. Okay. Okay, all looking good. Okay, let's give it full power here. And no panel lights. That's funny. I would have thought. Oh, I can see the string just hanging here. It looks like it's, yeah, it's just loose. Ugh. Terrible. Well, there's lights in here. You know what? I did not reinstall the lights. They're just hanging off. So I think they're probably both just burned out. I think what happened here was I didn't quite finish this radio, and I went on to another project. This being my own radio, I set it aside. So yeah, it's just taken me 5 years to get back to it. So let's go on the A band here. I mean, I'd be surprised if the radio doesn't work at all. So yeah, this is the band that doesn't work at all. Not surprised about that. Something's up. It'll be this button here. Could be. Sometimes one of these buttons has to be pushed for the variable frequency oscillator to be engaged. Or sometimes you have to have all these popped out. let's try one of these. Oh, sounds like a radio. CJKL, I don't even know that station. CKRM. WABC. CKSO. WCAU. I've never heard of these guys. Wow, there's definitely something going on up here. Oh yeah, right. I can't tune the radio anymore because the string came off. Well, there's something to investigate. Why the AM band never picked up on this radio. We'll try some other bands here. So B band is 2.5 to 7. I'm pretty sure this is only for AM. So let's put an antenna on there. I don't know if you're a shortwave listener or not, but just about every day I tune around the bands quickly, see what's happening at the very least. And it is bad. Bad. Reception last night, I think I picked up 2 stations. That's extremely poor. Now, I can't, yeah, right. Let's check it out. I can't tune the radio. So I'm tuning the radio by sticking my hand in the back. Okay, I've seen enough already. What I'm trying to decide is, should I withdraw the radio from the cabinet and carry on with it on my bench? And yeah, I've seen enough. There's already enough wonkiness. So getting a guy like this out of his cabinet is not the easiest thing in the world. They got a speaker to deal with, they got this antenna to deal with, I got this bunch of buttons up here to deal with, and then the chassis itself. It all has to come out. Yeah, so I'm going to do that off camera over the next little while. And then we'll get back at it once I have the chassis out and everything connected back to it and set up and ready for some work to be done on it. Okay, so I got almost everything out of here, but I wanted to show something about this particular style of radio that you have to think about, or it'll come back to haunt you. So you can see I've got the speaker out. It's on a plug, no problem. Got the antenna out, it's over here. It's also on a plug, no problem. These are replaced wires that I did last time I worked on the radio. I'm just about to take the switches out from up here. They have to come out, they have to be plugged into the radio for the radio to operate. So they must come out. It's part of the problem with working on this radio is these buttons and that. But there's 3 wires, see, 1, 2, 3 wires going up to here, and they're just pushed into 3 little connectors, 3 very simple connectors. Let me pull this one out here. Just like that. Getting these back in the right order is the problem. So if you do like I did in the past, you just pull them out and worry about it later. When later comes, it's a little more challenging than you might expect. So it's pretty important to label these wires somehow, front, middle, back, something like that. So later when you go to put them back in, when you're reconnecting them to the switch here, you'll get it in the right order. Or is that why the AM doesn't work in this radio? Is there a mistake in there already? Okay, we're all set to pull the chassis out. I've pulled the knobs off the front. Can't tell you how many times I've tried to pull a radio with the knob still on the front. I've labeled these wires, so I'm going to slide them off their connector here. Okay. Screws are out from the bottom. Should be able to pull this right out. Okay. String, yeah, look. String broke. Okay, I know what lies ahead now. Now I'm gonna pull this out, put it somewhere. Whoops. Another plug for the switch I forgot about. Okay, there we go. For the push buttons. There we go. There we are. I remember cleaning these up. Now I've done about 4 of these style of radio under different manufacturers. There's a little bit of variation between them, but not a lot. There's where you plug in your phono, television, or FM. Plug here for FM audio reproduction. Fine. Okay, I got everything out. One last look at this cabinet now. So when it comes to fixing up a cabinet like this without doing a full, wood restoration, and I am not a wood restoration guy. Pretty much the most I do with wood is burn it in my fireplace. So, but right away, what I've learned is you can look for these trim pieces here. Along this edge here, this was painted. Okay, this was varnished or something, but this edge was painted. You see the paint is mostly off of it. Not too bad on the side here, but off the top here. This is a really important thing I've discovered, because when you look at one of these radios, sometimes what makes it look so degraded is actually this trim area, where you can't help but see the failed paint or coating or whatever's in here. This is easy to paint back in. That's the point. So a little bit down here too, that's disappeared. The rest of it I don't think is trim painted. I think all the rest of it is varnished, which is a little bit unfortunate because of the damage here, which this would really take a full sanding. Now, I've explained before, if you get a radio with a top edge like this, then you can work right to this edge, and you're not forced to go over and down the side. So you can restrict your work to the top piece. But on this cabinet, it's got an edge here, but it's got a curve on this side. So if I do decide to sand this all down and redo it, which I'm thinking quite seriously about, I'm going to have to come right over this curve and right down the side here. What I am restricted from being forced into is coming over the front and having to refinish the whole front. I could do something different on the front because of this edge here. So I'm just looking at the front a little bit. Well, it's not the best shape, is it? It still has all its words here, so it's never been sanded down, and I would really be cautious about that. There are some separate pieces here. You could potentially redo this front panel here, and even if it looked different when you're done, because you've stained it a slightly different color, it might not be terribly off-putting. In fact, this radio is extra boring because they didn't do stuff like that. They didn't change the color of this area here. They didn't stain it a different color or something. They didn't do anything fancy with these pieces here. You know, they could have done something a little more with this to make it more stand outish, but I guess they chose not to. This looks a little darker than the rest. It also looks more beat up than the rest. But I don't think it's painted. Of course, that's the speaker area there. Okay, so I'll keep all those thoughts in my mind while I continue on with the radio and ponder what to do about the cabinet. You know, it's the winter now. My garage is below freezing. That's where I would normally go out and do refinishing work. So I'm not so anxious to do that. Now let's take a look at the rest of this. What have we got? We've got this set of switches. Okay, we've got the chassis here. Speakers out of the way right now. Let's take a peek underneath here and just marvel at my previous work. I think I can just stand it up this way. That's why the lights are off. The lights are off because these stick out, and when you stand the radio on its side, you can't have the light out here. I just never put them back on. They're burned out anyway, so it appeared. There's the string, which is falling off all the pulleys now, which means it's going to be a headache. Put it all back. What did you do under here, Jim? Wow, okay, so there's lots and lots of work here. So all these capacitors are changed out. Did I do the big hum maker? No, I did not. Here's the what looks like a big power supply filter capacitor. Probably wasn't humming enough. I'm just looking up on top here. Yeah, there's a capacitor located here. Filter capacitor. So I haven't done anything about the power supply filter in here. Looks pretty clean. Looks pretty nice. Hey, look, there's a molded capacitor I left in. So this was 5 years ago. My skills and approach are a little different now. I left this one in also, which is probably not the best thing to do. So but this one for sure. This is a bad actor. Why I decided to leave that one in? Oh, there's another one here. Another one. 2, 3. So I've left these black. Well, here 4, 5. I think you can even maybe see a crack in this one. There's a bunch of those, which I left in. So these are usually fairly small values of capacitor. But these black ones here, can you see that even in the camera? It's really hard to see, isn't it? Yeah. So, okay, so it looks like I got a few more capacitors to do. I could consider fixing up the power supply filter a bit. Again, the AM is not working on this radio for some reason. I wonder if I should explore that a little more. Maybe we should put it all back together, switch it back on, and poke around a little bit and kind of see what's up. In the meantime, I've got to get the schematic out and remind myself of all that stuff. That's the deal. Like I said, this radio should work like a charm. Not like a lot of radios. When you take it out of the cabinet, the dial faceplate is gone. It stayed back, but this one has numbers on the wheel here that you work from while the radio's out on your bench. The other challenge is how to support this. This really has to be sitting up in this area where it's intended to be relative to the chassis. You can't really have it off too far. And that's because it has the one cable coming out to the right there, you see. But then it's got these 3 wires that got to come up here, and in the end, the only place you can have the switch thing is up in this area. But I have a solution I saw in my video. what I did last time, I will do this time. Which was kind of a cool way of getting around this. I have this sitting here. Bring these wires up. Just barely fits, but it does. It's going to fit a little better now. There we go. So this, I can put the push buttons up here. Now, yeah, there's a little bit of metal here that's been introduced in the scheme of things, ungrounded metal. None of these plugs or wires you want to flex or bend. You can think of it that they have only so many times in their life to be bent. And for all you know, just like that string, the string was on its last rotate. And I rotated it. And that was the end of that. Okay, so I labeled these guys middle. Rear. Somehow you'd think wires involved in the tuning of the radio just can't be floppy wires like this. They'd have to be a cable of some sort or something running from up here to back in the radio, but not so. Not with this one anyway. Okay, so that's connected now. Speaker next. Speaker here. Fit this wire on. Fit this light on, rather. Speaker really should be put on in a way. Where's the speaker plug? Where did the speaker plug go? Oh, it's dragging way out at the front. So this should be on in such a way. It's got to ride around on the turntable with the radio. This is pretty long and pretty flexible, so I'm going to put it at the back here. Okay, and you really don't want to bend these wires too much. Have it come around the outside. I think it's the best way. It's right upside down from where it wants to be. Okay, that's not bad. Speaker here. Let's put a little edge lifter on it, so it's not sealed right down onto the board here. What do we got left now? We've got speaker on, antenna. I knew there were three things. When I redid this, I thought I'd use nice colorful wires because the original wires were brightly colored. The wires they used originally to go from the radio up to here, because this is intended to be turned, they used very, very flexible wires. I really haven't. Mine aren't really as flexible as they should be. The flexible wires have a kind of insulation that gives out early. It doesn't last as long as the rest. So that's why when you see a radio with a flexible wire cable, there's a good chance the flexible wires are shot. The insulation is shot in it. Okay, so we'll just leave that laying there like that. And there you have it. It's just the situation here has gotten really, really ugly with the string. Yeah, I'm on my own now. Man, that's a pretty complicated little deal there. I'm on my own. Starting from scratch. Yikes. Okay, you know what I just noticed here too? Is there some paint flaking right up at the top here? And this is going to slide over it. just goes over it. Phew. Suppose it wouldn't be that big a deal to repaint the back plate if you had to. Okay, let's just get this light up here too, just so it's not where it shouldn't be. Ready to go again. I'll connect up the antenna here. It's not the antenna, this one. There we go. I'll leave the ground disconnected for now. And we're ready to go again. On-off tone, volume down. Tuning is gone. Why is this a double? This is the band switch. This isn't really a double. Wait a minute, what's going on here? Okay, so I think this outside piece doesn't turn. It's got a flat spot on it because it's trying to hold this guy in the right position. So this isn't turning or moving. It looks like it's a double knob, but it's not really. So that's the band switch on out here. Oh yeah, I think we're ready to blast off. That's enough pre-flight consultations. There we go on restricted power first. So we got to turn it on. Hey, the lights came on. Okay, we'll go full power. Okay, so we're on band B. Band A, this is supposed to be AM radio. Oh, seem to have something there. This button's depressed. With the button depressed. So I'm pretty sure it's the case you need to have this button pushed. I mean, if you push this button, you're going to be trying to play, pop them all out. That must be the way it is. That's kind of crazy, but that's not. You know, usually there's a button you push and that's the one that turns on the VFO. Doesn't sound any different, does it? Tuning it. Something really mucked up about the AM band on this radio. There's just a chance this button's got to be pushed, as long as you have nothing plugged in the auxiliary here. You're good to go. No, see, I think I'm pretty sure now. All we've done is turned off the radio signal. Well, I don't know what's going on with that band. Everyone, 19-meter band. Down here. I think there's a chance my antenna is not switched on in the shop here. Let me go double check that. I'll be right back. Okay, not make any difference. Seem to have made any difference. So I'm going to put the ground lead on. Doesn't seem to want to receive anything. Dirt in the switch. Right there. Fade it out. Okay. Kind of wanted to get to the point where I heard something. Good, so I'm going to let all this, all my observations and whatnot soak into my head for a while when I decide what I'm going to be doing with this radio, and come up with some kind of a repair plan approach. So, hey, thanks for watching me go over this radio, and I really hope to get this thing performing really, really well. That's my goal with this. By the way, what I'm doing here is I'm on my own training course to try to improve my skills so I can take another run at this fantastic radio I have, a Hammerland SP600, which I really need to have the best skills possible to tune that radio up. So that one's headed for my bench. That's a 65-pound 25 tube radio. That's going to come in here at some point. So that's why I'm really interested in working really hard on this one. So here we go. That's it. Hey, thanks for watching.